So there is basically a trust deficit where nobody is ready to trust each other.
See, there is basically scope for improvement in any sphere. Here you are talking of consultation with more and more people at the grassroots level for any type of development. Gram Sabhas have been very active of recent in entire Goa. In fact, last time we had the village groups coming up when we tried to pass the regional plan. And if at all Congress party as a ruling party went down, is because people felt that they are forcing the entire regional plan down the throat of the people in a manner that people do not want it. Important that is to be noted is it boils down to very simple things. I don't know why we are unnecessarily complicating it. Even the regional plan is delayed. You are having permissions being given in a haphazard manner, on a ad hoc basis decisions are being taken, which is bound to happen if you don't have the regional plan, which is the most important thing, which I think we are coming later. But what I am simply saying is, somehow simple things are being complicated. What do we need to preserve? We need to preserve our slopes, we need to preserve the green areas, we need to preserve the Kazan land, we need to preserve our fields, we need to preserve the character of the villages and where they are really virgin good villages. But as rightly said, and I fully endorse the view, where development has taken place, where you see cities have already grown, what is there even including increasing the FAR and going more vertical than going horizontal, even that decision is not being taken. This results in parking on the roads in common utility areas where people can't even take their car across, or sometimes can't even take a two-wheeler. So where it is developed, you should allow more development. Even if you feel that some houses are being cornered by some others who want to have it as a second home, I don't find anything wrong as such there. But provided they should not be allowed to go in the interiors, in the villages, just because they have money, they buy the whole village, as has happened. You have colonization even from different countries. They have bought whole swaths of land, entire village or half a village. This should not be allowed to happen. So we need basically to preserve green areas, Kazan land, lands which should not be developed, which are marshy lands, and then that will sustain your agriculture, that will sustain your pisciculture, that will sustain what is required for your food and other things.
Okay.
Here what is happening is permissions are being given and it is a sort of mixed baji. What comes up where nobody knows, a permission is being given for a high-rise building even in a pristine Goan village, and that's why you have people coming up in arms.
Okay.
And as is the saying, lastly I want to say, Olyacher sukya chair ole zotta. Means everything gets burnt out. Even genuine requests for development get blocked.
Okay.
And whole Goa is being looked at negatively in the entire country, which should not be allowed.
It is a very crucial question, taking this point of view forward. How large should be the scope of public participation in planning? Because the moment you get 100 people together, they will have 100 views and they will have 100 opinions. How do you look at this? How large should be the scope of public participation, and how should we actually come down to the nuts and bolts of the plan?
Actually, public participation is missing in India. That has been the reason why you have had this constitutional amendment. Because it's really from the colonial regime that you have had a center-state relationship, the lawmakers, the parliamentary units and their segments for the assemblies. But right up to 92, 90% of urban India was superseded in the belief of municipal India was superseded in the belief that they were useless and they were only scavenging. Now you can't do that. The biggest message which is coming out from the constitutional amendment is a spatial context for investments. That is the biggest message which is coming out. Now if that is the case, it has to be very participatory. And what is the meaning of participation is what is the smallest denominator you can go to. You don't expect an MP, which is roughly 2 million at the All India level, to interact with the people. You don't expect an assembly, which is about 200,000. But once you come back to a municipality, which is hopefully not more than 30,000 each ward, or you come down to panchayat ward, which are around not more than 300-400 families. So basically they can sit round a table, round a map. Ultimately, it is understanding development through maps. Anything you've got your maps. The planners are being taught to interpret things on maps, right? And that has been missing. I dare say I would go to the extent of saying that today there is a tremendous effort by the parliaments and their assemblies segments to stop maps coming out. I'm sorry, I don't mean any offense, but I think that is what is really the ground reality, because that is where participation can take place. Just imagine, around a map, everyone will have views, but that's the only chance you've got where 51% views will prevail. You're not getting them in parliament, you're not getting them in the assemblies. Do you know, everyone is saying that the last elections, the BJP won because with only 31% seats. But the more critical factor is there were at least 50 to 100 constituencies, I don't know the number, where everyone got less than 16% of the votes, right? But yet, everyone lost their deposits, but the person who was top was elected, right? And yet he would have lost his deposit. So the whole question is now, is he representing the people? So the whole question is accountability and participation, and that can only happen, I think, through the wards. 2.43 lakh wards are required. Constitutionally, you can't remove them. Another important thing is that's the only place where you can get more than 33% women elected, up to 50%. Delhi has it, 50% minimum, and they can stand in the general constituency. 55% women are reacting in Delhi. In Kerala, the same thing. And I think you're getting more participation because 29 subject items in the constitution relate to the third sector in panchayats, 18 relate to the municipal sectors. Most of the things, if you see, my wife knows how to handle that better than I do. They relate to garbage, water, children's cleanliness, dog bites and all that. And yet they are ignored. Why should I run to my MLA to solve those problems? And yet the constitution says they're not supposed to do it. How soon and how are we able to do it? Unfortunately, the track record in India from 1993 onwards has been to stop that system. Do you know, I'm sorry, 1 minute more. Do you know that the intention of the constitutional amendment was not to make it politically oriented, right?
Correct.
It was to make it people oriented. Who does more for your constituency to vote for him? That is not happening. All the elections are being changed to again go into the party politics. So it's really coming down. So I think these are the issues which we all have to stand up in. And Goa is doing quite well in that, I must say.
Another crucial question, I'll just take it forward. When we talk about development, when we talk about sustainable development, I'll try to divide it into three categories. One is the human index development, one is the physical built-up development, and the third thing that is emerging very fast is the digital development, where you don't even need to have a shop, but you have an online store. You don't need a real estate, but you sell everything. How are you looking at this changing trend, and how are the knowledge part that you spoke in your opening remarks, that is that is there in the human brain, and that is what this digital development is doing.
No.
How strongly can that solve our problem or create more problems?
See, development should not be linked to getting more money. All of this digital information systems, if they are used to create information which will be useful for doing participatory development, then yes. But at the moment, the way it is being used is purely for commerce. And I think he is quite right that this is the process which is very badly needed. It can only work if the groups are small enough, and we need to break up. For example, in my housing society, there are 100 members. We can sit down together. We may fight, but we'll come to a conclusion finally. And so, like that, your neighborhood, your ward also needs further breaking down for the decision making to be taken. And for that, nothing can replace face-to-face communication. Your digital communication is of some importance, but face to face is really the most effective human communication, especially in a country like ours, where we have so many people who speak different languages, who have different perceptions about things, and the digital can only have one click. It can only make a tiny message. It can't have a discourse and a discussion which is necessary for deciding what kind of development do we want. And so the face to face cannot be replaced. So by knowledge is meant really the inner preparation of all human beings to be participants in society. That is
That's, Itish, how large should be the scope of public participation?
पण हांव तुका पॉलिटिको लिगल रॅल्मांतल्यान सांगता. आमचो टावन एंड कंट्री प्लॅनिंग एक्ट आसा तो 74 लेजिस्लेट जालो. मिसेस काकोडकर, इफ आय एम नॉट मिस्टेकन, वॉज द चीफ मिनिस्टर. मिस्टर राणे वॉज द मिनिस्टर फॉर टावन प्लॅनिंग. 74 73rd आनी 74th कॉन्स्टिट्युशनल अमेंडमेंट नाशिल्ले. टावन प्लॅनिंग एक्टान सेक्शन 9 जर तूं पळयत, इफ आय एम नॉट रॉंग, Section 9 says government may direct chief town planner to make a regional plan for any part or for the state. Local authority scope mention केल्लो ना, parameter lay down केल्ले ना. Local authority चे definition town planning actan आसा, पूण ताजो रोल पार्टिसिपेटिव्ह प्रोसेसांत डिफायन केल्लो ना. जेन्ना 73rd 74th कॉन्स्टिट्युशनल अमेंडमेंट आयलो, 243G 243W दिसता म्हाका कॉन्स्टिट्युशनान इनग्रेन जाले. वॉट इट सेज, इकॉनॉमिक आनी सोशल प्लॅन्स शाल बी द डोमेन ऑफ द स्टेट, वीच शाल बी डिसेंट्रलायज टू द लोकल सेल्फ गव्हर्निंग बॉडीज. आतां हो जो स्कोप कॉन्स्टिट्युशनांत भितर इनग्रेन जालो तो डिवॉल्व जालो काय ना, दीस इज द क्वेश्चन. नंबर 2, आतां रिजनल प्लॅनाच्या संदर्भांत उलोवया. 2021 रिजनल प्लॅन जेन्ना जालो, टास्क फोर्स गठीत जालो, ताजे नंतर SLC गठीत जाली. आतां दीज वर गूड मेथड्स. कित्याक गूड मेथड्स? नाव आय एम नॉट गोईंग टू द मेरिट्स ऑफ इट, बट पार्टिसिपेशनान एक फ्रेमवर्क करून पंचायतींनी धाडप, हाज्या खातीर एक टास्क फोर्स करप इज अ गूड आयडिया. मागीर पंचायतींनी लोकल बॉडीनी ताजेर ओपायन करप, दॅट हॅज टू बी एसिम्युलेटेड आनी सीन बाय द SLC. इट्स अ गूड आयडिया. पूण तूं जर पळयत जाल्यार टास्क फोर्स आनी SLCचे कितें ते बॉन जे जाल्या ते कायद्याच्या हातून बॉन लेजिस्लेटिव्ह हातून जावना. इट इज थ्रू अ नोटिफिकेशन. आतां नोटिफिकेशन काडलें, सो त्या सरकारान तें केलें. फुडलें सरकार जेन्ना रिजनल प्लॅन करतलो तेन्ना करतले काय ना हो प्रश्न. सो क्वेश्चन इज, पब्लीक पार्टिसिपेशन शूड बी इनग्रेन्ड इन द लेजिस्लेटिव्ह डॉक्युमेंट, which is not there. Constitution says very clearly your devolution mechanism is in place in the constitution, but when it comes to state acts it is missing. This is number 1. Number 2, आता ग्राम सभा. आता हांव इमिडिएटली हें उलयलो काय ना, somebody will say म्हणजे that means everything what ग्राम सभा should be taken, everything what see I'll tell you. फाल्यां जर एका पंचायतीन ग्राम सभेन ठराव घेतलो की इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्युशन डजंट अप्लाय टू द कंट्री, हाजो अर्थ तो ठराव मान्य जाता, एक्सेप्ट जाता ना. In our law, there is a check and balance where an unlawful resolution or an illegal resolution cannot have its way. So this sort of a mechanism has to be put in place where Gram Sabhas and Panchayats get an opportunity. They know their parameters to opine. It is ingrained in the law. It doesn't become a concessionary benefit.
Okay.
So this sort of system has to be in place.
मिलिंद बाब, कितले आसचे कितले नासचे पब्लिक पार्टिसिपेशन?
पार्टिसिपेशन 2 लेवलाचे असता. वेन यू टॉक ऑफ लोकल लेवल इश्यूज, द सब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ लोकल लेवल इंटरवेंशन आर A. The set is A. But I feel that beyond that there are state interests and there are national interests also. And national interests, what is the priority of interest?